We're on House Bill 1796. Senator Beavers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill simply asserts that if a firearm and/or ammunition is made totally within the state of Tennessee, then the federal government has no jurisdiction over that item in any fashion so long as it remains in the state and outside of interstate commerce. All state regulations applying to the possession of firearms in Tennessee would still be applicable and would have to be complied with. This legislation is being proposed to thwart the nullity of the 10th Amendment to the Constitution and to prevent a federal attempt to legislate beyond the constitutional limits of Congress, which results in a usurpation of the state's sovereignty authority. An effort by the federal government to regulate interstate commerce under the guise of powers implied by the Interstate Commerce Clause could only result in encroachment of the state's power to regulate commerce within its borders. This bill is similar to one signed into law in Montana and pending passage in at least 30 other states. The bill requires a firearm manufactured or sold in Tennessee under this bill to have the words stamped in some of the metallic part of the gun, made in Tennessee. With that explanation, I would renew my motion.
Senator Beavers renews her motion on House Bill 1796. Senator Burke, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the sponsor will yield.
Yields.
Chairman Beavers, doesn't this bill put us in direct opposition to current federal law?
Senator Beavers.
There will be a test case on this kind of legislation. We think that will come from Montana. But the federal government has overstepped its boundaries in telling us what we can do with our interstate commerce. And if a gun is made in Tennessee, we propose that the federal government doesn't have any right to tell us what to do with those.
Mr. Burke.
But if one of the citizens of our state reads about the passage of this legislation and uses it and relies upon it and goes out and does something, and that's the test case, couldn't they be convicted under federal law despite whatever the words of this particular bill say?
Mr. Beavers.
As I said, a test case is expected, and we think that Montana's law will be the test case. There are 30 other states also that are considering this for passage this year. Texas, a couple of weeks ago, was close to passing it, and Alaska.
Senator Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I see this as a real danger to our citizens. I understand that the Chairman Beavers has a problem with what federal law says, and although I may disagree with her, we can have that debate, and it's one thing to put it in a resolution. But when we tell our citizens that there are certain things that they can do under our laws that can get them in trouble and potentially send them to jail, I view that as a real danger, and I urge the members of this body to vote against this bill.
Mr. Kyle.
Mr. Speaker, I voted against this bill in committee. This is another one of a series of bills brought to us by the firearms industry and by firearms advocates, which have so dominated the legislative session this year, a time in which we are struggling to try to find money to take care of the mentally retarded and mentally ill. We continue to spend our time talking about these types of issues, which, while important, may not be as important as the concerns and rights of the needy. I would only say, Mr. Speaker, that Senator Burke is right. You're going to vote to put this bill in the law in one of those green books back there. Someone's going to read it. Someone's going to think they can do it. And someone's going to have an ATF officer one day in a blue windbreaker knock in their door and ask them what they're doing, and they're going to say, "Oh, but the Tennessee legislature said I could manufacture guns and just mark them made in Tennessee, and I'm fine." Well, that's the first thing wrong with this bill. The second thing wrong with this bill is we're buying a lawsuit right here. We're expending our resources of our Attorney General's office. We're buying a lawsuit because we're now joining a lawsuit and buying a lawsuit and spending our time and spending our money on a political statement. This is a political statement. I agree. If we want to make a political statement that says that this is what the federal government should be doing this, we should send that to the president, send that to the Congress, send that as a resolution. We did that earlier today on cap and trade, if I recall. Made a statement and said this is what we think and this is where we are. This is where the majority of citizens are. Nobody got hurt by that. Nobody got their door kicked in. Nobody had an opportunity to go to the federal penitentiary. Nobody got the opportunity to personally meet an ATF agent who have told us that this law is a nullity as far as they are concerned. Now, there comes a point when you can take making your statements too far. Making this a law is too far. I love the people of Montana, but I'm not going to let them put my citizens in jail. Thank you.
Senator Norris.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Kyle and I have a lot of fun throughout the year sort of trading quips back and forth, and he's well known for making comments when he stands up, begins to wind up to make a statement. But I need to respond to one statement that he made about the work the Senate is doing and that we have what he considers to be more important work to do on the budget. And I would just like to state for the record that we would all like to be working on the budget, but we're still waiting for the budget documents to be presented by the administration. He knows that, and I think those listening in should be aware of it as well. The technical corrections bill, the omnibus bill, all the other documents we need to conclude this budget. Had we had them weeks ago, I'd submit to you, sir, we wouldn't be here today.
Senator Gresham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Call the previous question.
Objection to the question? Seeing no objection to the question, Senator Beavers, would you like to close? Senator Beavers? The question has been put. There were no objection to the question. Senator Beavers, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stated, all state regulations applying to the possession of firearms would stay in place. Folks, this is about the federal government trying to tell us what to do with interstate commerce. As you know, when the Constitution was written, there were several attempts to give the national government the say over what states did. James Madison attempted to do that several times with the Virginia plan and several other attempts and could not manage to do that. So they reserved interstate commerce to the states, and that's what this does, folks. It's just tell the federal government that the things that are interstate commerce in Tennessee should be reserved to Tennessee, and we should be making the laws on those, not them.
Question has been put. Will be on the board. Those for passage of House Bill 1796 on third and final consideration, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed will vote no. Every member voted? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Ayes 21, 7 nays.
House Bill 1796, Henry City Constitution majority hereby passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider goes to the table.